Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. We need to get into everything that is happening with AMC stock here today, as well as some of these Fed speakers and what McCarthy just had to say about the debt ceiling. It does not look pretty. So let's get into it. Hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Source your comments, questions, or concerns down below in the comment section. If you guys also want to come trade with me live in real time, link down below in the description of this video. Something is coming. You got to be ready for it, baby. So first things first, let's get into what's happening today as far as news. So Fed Bostic, he is a voting member. The main headline right here reads, Fed Bostic casts doubt on rate cuts this year, even if there is a recession. Atlanta Fed President Raphael Bostic said Monday that he doesn't foresee rate cuts at least through 2023, even if a widely forecast recession hits. Quote, if there's going to be a bias to action, for me it would be a bias to increase a little further as opposed to a cut, he told CNBC. Chicago Fed President Austin Goolsbee also spoke to CNBC, saying he is taking a cautious approach to policymaking. And this is really flying right in the face of what the markets want to see happen right now. The markets currently, if we go to Fed Rate Monitor tool, this is from investing.com. Highly recommend you guys use this tool to kind of forecast what the next Fed meeting is going to be. The probability after Fed Bostic is saying this, even for a rate hike in June, is going higher. This was at an over 80-90% probability last week, or specifically on Friday, the probability of a pause was 84.5%. Today, it is 69.5%. And the Fed almost always does what this is pricing in, and that's why it's kind of so important. And we have a lot of Fed speakers this week, so they're really going to try to solidify no rate cuts and potentially raise again in June. They don't want to take any possible policy action off the table, because if inflation does ramp up, the next reading that we get and inflation expectations go higher again, they're going to have to raise rates. And if they put the markets in a position where nobody expects it and then they do it, that's a problem. Now, for July 26th, there is a 25.9% chance of getting a rate cut. Raphael Bostic said today, and this just happened, like he just finished talking. He said that the only way that they would get a rate cut is if inflation was basically sub 3% by the end of this year. And he said he forecast inflation to the high end of 3%. That essentially, that's not going to happen. But you still are getting some people expecting a rate cut in July. Most people, 55% of investors, do expect a pause. So that was big today. You also had a couple other Fed speakers that are not voting members also talk today. And all of them are reiterating the same thing, right? No rate cuts. Maybe we will raise again. And that just flies in the face of what markets are expecting. 3 to 4 rate cuts by the end of this year. That doesn't sound very logical unless the debt limit didn't get raised and you had some bad catastrophe happen. That is what McConnell said today. Or not McConnell, McCarthy. McCarthy said that they're not seeing any progress on the debt limit. It says right here, Biden optimistic about a debt limit deal, but McCarthy says White House isn't being serious. President Joe Biden said he thinks the White House and congressional leaders can hammer out a deal to raise the debt ceiling. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy, however, said he thinks the sides are still far apart. Their remarks came ahead of a Tuesday meeting between Biden, McCarthy, House Democratic Leader Hakeem Jeffries, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, and Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell. So it's not looking like anything's really improving here. And the markets really didn't react at all to this. Like not at all. So I think this creates a lot more kind of down to the wire type panic that is ultimately going to come from this guy. So there you have that. Those are some of the biggest stories that are happening today. And we're going to have another Fed speaker as well later in the day. Today, if we go to the Monday's economic calendar, it's a pretty big calendar this week. A lot of Fed speakers. We go to Fed Cook. He's going to be speaking at 4 p.m. He is a voting member, so what he says will also be important. Now, Tuesday, for tomorrow, you're going to get retail sales month over month, and that's going to be very important data. On top of retail sales, you're going to have really retail earnings like Home Depot, Target, TJ Maxx. You're going to have Walmart that reports earnings this week. Feed that into retail sales. You're going to get a pretty clear outlook of how people are spending their money. If spending is slowing down, if that recession is getting closer, or if the recession fears are really overblown. That's bottom line what the kind of question is and the answer that we'll get throughout the rest of this week. Tomorrow morning earnings are going to be Home Depot, PaySafe, and a couple other names. A lot of actually Chinese and Japanese companies that will also be reporting earnings tomorrow morning. Today in after hours, you're going to have Rumble. That's probably the only one people care about, and New, that Brazilian bank that Warren Buffett did back like a year and a half ago. So not the biggest earnings coming out here, but it's retail, guys. It's directly linked to the economy. Now, Fed Master also speaks tomorrow at 8:15 in the morning. Fed Bostic speaks at 8:55 in the morning. Fed Williams speaks at 12:15 tomorrow. Fed Barr speaks at 10 o'clock in the morning tomorrow. And Fed Logan speaks at 3:15 tomorrow. Fed Bostic speaks again at 7 p.m. tomorrow. So this is the most packed Fed speaker week that we have had in a very, very long time. So tomorrow it's going to be a pretty important day. Now let's switch gears and let's talk about AMC stock here in this video, because AMC down about 1%. And let me just tell you guys, this market, not as good as what you would think when you look at the indexes here and you see the NASDAQ up 0.5% or the Russell 2000 up 1.19%. A lot of stocks have gotten beaten down over the last couple of weeks. And some of them are getting beaten down here today. Not all stocks are doing well like you would think when the Russell 2000 is positive. Now, AMC down about 0.87%, sitting at $5.16 per share. Good news is the 50-day moving average is at $5.12 per share. So you are still higher than the 50-day moving average. That is still holding as support. And granted how many red days you kind of seen in a row, you should bounce at this level. Right? It doesn't always have to happen. Sometimes you get a lot of red days and then you get more red days. But if I were to estimate the probability of the next move with AMC, it would be a much higher probability of AMC going higher from here rather than going lower. And if you take a look at the RSI, that is at 45.47. So, under neutral, technically a little bit on the oversold side. The MACD is now in negative territory. It's actually above the 0 line, but you are seeing some downside momentum indicators, right? This yellow line, the CCC line, has broke under the signal line. So not necessarily a positive thing to see there. But again, you've fallen quite a bit, right? The last 4 or 5 trading days have been straight red, so it doesn't surprise me. But again, the probability of us going higher from here is a lot bigger than going lower from here, based off of what I just said. Now, if we go ahead and take a look at the Ortex data here with AMC stock and get into what in the world is happening today, you can see a live short interest of free float at 25%. 129 million shares currently sold short. Cost to borrow average at about 91%. Cost to borrow max 224.5%. Cost to borrow minimum, last real reading we got was 115%. Today it says 1%. Those numbers just are not realistic. They're not real. Interactive Brokers has a cost to borrow rate of about 81% with 1.2 million shares that are available to be lent out. Now, if we take a look at the option activity here today, same story, guys. Literally the same story. They just don't give it a break. Look at these large orders. A July 21st, $10 put for $3.04 million. A July 21st, $10 put for $1.21 million. A July 10th, or July 21st, $10 put for $2.11 million. You're getting a lot of orders that are over $500,000 and quite a few that are over $1 million. What this does when AMC has low volume, like what we've experienced, AMC only has 9 million, or about 9.2 million shares that have traded hands so far. What this does is really skews the total volume, right? Because if you're getting hundreds of thousands of shares that have to be shorted by market makers, and there's only a couple million shares that are trading hands, that's sizable, right? Just in these big orders right here, you got 5,000 contracts, 2,000 contracts, and 3.5 thousand contracts. That's 10,500 contracts just for those 3 orders, not to mention the other orders. That is over 1 million shares that have to go out and be shorted by market makers. It's putting a lot of downside pressure on AMC stock. It's a wonder AMC's only down about 1% today. It's a suppressive tactic. This is not, hedge funds looking for a home run trade. This is not hedge funds being too bearish on AMC, thinking AMC is going to fall a lot. That's really not what this is about. This is about suppressing AMC and trying to break your spirits, trying to get you to sell your position. That's what this is, and nothing else. I'm not seeing evidence of the option activity suggesting like an imminent crash or anything like that. That's not what we're seeing here, right? So keep that in mind. That commentary is very important. Seeing a lot of option activity, but it's not necessarily weighted to a huge bearish drop. That's not what we're seeing. They just want you to sell your stock. They want AMC stock to go lower. They want to panic you. And the best way to do that is buy these deep in the money options when AMC stock is at its lower volume points, right? So, guys, that is going to do it here in this video. Earnings tomorrow with Home Depot, going to be important. Retail sales tomorrow, going to be important. Fed cook tonight at 4 p.m. will be important, as well as Fed speakers tomorrow, again, will be very important. Nonetheless, guys, that is going to do it here in this video. In the next video, we're going to get into the 13F filings that are coming out even more for AMC and see what these hedge funds are doing. So, nonetheless, you guys have a great rest of your day, and I will see you in the next one.